Hello viewers and welcome to another Forza Motorsport 6 video. This time we're looking at the Brabham BT24 all assists off using the TX wheel. Managed to get my TX wheel set up with my T500 pedals and racing around Brands Hatch. Why? Because it's an old classic course that suited these cars many years ago. Obviously it's changed, but essentially it's still very similar in terms of its layout as it was then. And two, because for me it's a tricky car to drive. So it sort of raises the nuances of the physics. But rather than discussing all that now, I'm just going to describe what I'm noticing so far. So I find that the car tends to, again, lose grip very quickly. The rear end is really where the car tends to lose grip, sometimes, you know, unexpectedly so far. Generally speaking, I'm just taking it nice and slow. I'm going to gradually build speed throughout the video and just learn how to drive the car. So what am I feeling so far? Well, wheel weight isn't really there. I've been into the options to look at what can be improved there. Nothing. It's at 100%. The force feedback hits, but there's not the wheel weight there in the first place to give you that feeling of turning these big heavy front wheels. There was no power steering on these cars, and so you lack a certain feeling of weight from the car in the first place. It's very light, and then you get some force feedback. Now I'm using a first generation TX wheel. I don't know if that will make any difference, but either way, going around that final corner, gently on the power, and I'm being very progressive on the throttle. Throttle control is something else I've noticed, where again I've mentioned in the previous video. I'm not able to drive the game with a racing technique, and a racing technique is when you go into a corner such as this one, Druids, you would gently be on the power now. So you're on the power all the way through the corner, but then you're progressively on the power, using the power to steer the car on the exit. And as you use the power to steer the car, it pushes the car out. And I'm going to mention that again on a future video as well. So that technique I can't get working in this game at the moment, because I find that when you get on the power, the car either oversteers, it just goes wide as soon as you get on the power, which is a bit strange. It's just almost like the car just sort of locks in a way, or you know, it sort of spins out very quickly, and there's very little room in between on terms of the power. So with the wheel handling so far, for me it adds more to it so far just on this car. I haven't played this car with a pad, but I will go back and explore. I have run a BMW touring car, I forget which model it was, and again it was easier to drive, it was much smoother to drive for me with a wheel, but in comparison to, you know, where I would like it to be, it still wasn't giving me the sort of feedback and the full tactile feeling from the wheel. So and this isn't about wheel rotation, it's got nothing to do with that. All it's got to do with is the force feedback at the moment, in terms of not even force feedback, it's just the weight of the wheel. So it's fine. And here's an interesting incident, I think, here. Getting on the power, flat out, suddenly the rear of the car loses it. And this has happened a few times, and I thought I could run this again and just do it perfectly, but that's quite an interesting incident. And what happens is, with some of these corners, I'm only turning very slightly, because I find if you turn more, the rear end just steps out on all of these cars so far. I mean, it depends on the power and weight ratio and everything else, but they do seem to suffer from a lack of grip. Now, this has assists off, but it has normal steering on at the moment. Simulation steering, I'm going to test in another video. I can already say that I find simulation steering to be largely pointless, and I don't know what it's trying to simulate, but it certainly doesn't simulate real life. So it's a little bit all over the place. But I'm just trying to build a bit of speed here now. Obviously I had that spin. It wasn't surprising. I've had a few cars where I've noticed when you're driving, the front tyres are gripping and the rear just seems to be waving around on the cars. And when you turn into a corner, you'll just see the rear just stepping out all the time. It's very interesting to see how the car is. The front tyres seem to be going in the right direction, but the rear tyres just moving around all over the place as if they're as if they're in a different place. I mean, it's almost like the car's pivoting into some of these corners, and so yeah, I'm not really pushing, I'm not gripping. As soon as you try to go a bit faster, you're driving on ice. It's a very unusual driving experience, and certainly I'd need a bit more time to fully understand the car. And in the next video I'll be looking at simulation steering and then normal steering as well in the Lotus 49. But that's it from this video. There'll be more from me very soon.